Just to let you know, there's a pop quiz that's going to be later on in this video, and I'll even give you your choices, A, B, or C. Let's talk about that. Here's your armed citizen meme of the week. Screen cap it, crop it, and send it to everyone you know.
It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
Before I get started with the content, I want you to know this is 100% human, 0% AI. I write my own scripts and I record my own videos. And while I got your attention, I'm going to ask what everyone else does. I'm going to ask that you like my video. I'm going to ask that you subscribe to my channel and share it with your friends. And if you're feeling real generous, I have a buy me a coffee link. Toss a few coins my way so I can stay stocked in ammo. Let's get on with the content. Missing your target when under life or death stress is all too common. I remember a dash cam video from the 1990s where a state trooper and a criminal mag dumped at each other, exchanging over 30 total rounds of gunfire, and they were literally a car's width apart. The trooper was on one side of the trunk and the criminal was on the other. They were almost close enough for their muzzles to overlap. And out of all those rounds, both were uninjured. We also have this last year where a Secret Service agent, almost within touch distance of an assassin, fired 6 shots at him and missed. Accuracy is critical for 2 reasons. The first is you can't stop the threat if you can't hit something vital on the threat. The second is bullets keep going if they miss your intended target, with a fair chance that that bullet will end up injuring or ending someone innocent. In this business, that's known as bad juju, and it never ends well for anybody. So this came across my social media a few days ago, and this comes from the Red Dot Training Range in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. Here you see what I surmise to be a target used for a police officer's annual pistol qualification. I did some looking and found the MPOTEC, the Municipal Police Officers Education and Training Commission, document that is used for qualification of law enforcement officers in Pennsylvania. The link is below if you're curious. The actual course of fire is on pages 8 and 9 of the document. I have modified the image to highlight every hit on the target to make them easier to see. Some of the circles, I'll admit, are questionable. However, knowing how many rounds were in the course of fire and how many misses, the image said this is as accurate as I can get it. I'll let you read what's on the meme. Let me tell you what the write-up was along with this image. This is a quote from this social media post. A police officer told me this morning that the things I say are often a turnoff to others in the profession because I'm blunt, that the uncomfortable truths I bring up tend to rub people the wrong way. That discomfort isn't my concern. Preventable failures are. If you carry a firearm for a living and your shooting doesn't meet an acceptable standard, I'm going to tell you, not to embarrass you, but because the consequences of failure are catastrophic. You may have to fire a shot at a suspect raising a shotgun inside a hallway with his 2 children behind him screaming. If you miss, you will sit in court and explain to their mother why her child is dead. You'll have to justify why 5 minutes of daily dry fire was less important than your fantasy football roster or watching TikTok videos. You may have to engage across multiple lanes of highway traffic with vehicles moving between you and your target. There will be no room for a poor trigger press or misjudged holdover, and no time to second guess. You may have to draw and shoot in a packed retail store while a frightened child clings to your non-dominant hand. If you miss, body camera footage will be replayed in court for months, frame by frame, as opposing counsel explains your lack of preparation. You may have to fire into a fully occupied vehicle with near zero margin for error. If your fundamentals aren't solid, the risk of collateral damage is unavoidable and unacceptable. These are not theoretical problems. They're documented scenarios, and they happen with far more regularity than most would like to admit. There are literally hundreds of YouTube channels dedicated solely to dash and body cam footage that prove this. Every day, I see officers sharing memorial posts about colleagues who've been shot in the line of duty. And while honoring the fallen matters, how many of these officers might still be alive had they sought out real training or not treated their annual qualification as an inconvenience? That number isn't zero. And I know that sucks to hear. I know it sounds harsh, but unfortunately, it's the truth. And until we're honest about that, we're going to keep seeing black bars and hashtags when we should be seeing officers go home. So no, I won't throw someone a parade for barely meeting the minimum, but I will give them a clear path to improve, should they actually want to. One instructor I saw had a thing, I forget who, I haven't seen it in a while, where if you missed the silhouette target, in other words, you hit paper but you missed your target, you had to write a name next to the hole on the paper to represent a person hurt or ended by your lack of marksmanship. So let's do it for this officer. Let's name their misses: Ashley, Becky, Charles, David, Ernest, Franklin, Gary, Heather, Ian, Julie, Katie, Luke, Mary. Was that uncomfortable? Good. It should have been. Now that we've discussed the consequences of missing, let's talk about how much it takes to miss. To stress the importance of accuracy, the example I'm going to use is the death of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri in 2014. If you don't remember the name of the city or his name, this is where hands up, don't shoot came from. This is just an examination of the forensic evidence. There is a whole nother side of this on the social side. The short version is the local government was doing things that made the populace very angry. Brown's death was the spark that set the anger on fire. Michael Brown had 8 gunshot wounds on his body. These were 1 to the right hand, 3 to the right arm, 1 to the upper thoracic region, 1 to the neck or jaw, 1 through the right eye, and 1 through the top of his head. The officer involved had stopped Mr. Brown and his companion for jaywalking. Mr. Brown approached the police vehicle, reached in, and punched the officer while the officer was still seated in the vehicle. That punch fractured the officer's left eye socket. Mr. Brown then reached in through the window and attempted to grab the officer's firearm. In the ensuing struggle, the officer pulled the trigger, which resulted in the hand injury of Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown then ran off about 10 yards while the officer exited the vehicle. The officer was disoriented and had vision problems from the punch, not to mention his ears were ringing and probably some disorientation from the sound of discharging his weapon in the enclosed space of a vehicle. It was at this point Mr. Brown stopped, turned to face the officer, and started to advance toward the officer. At this point, Mr. Brown was at or under 7 yards, which is the baseline teller distance. Based on his size and strength, Mr. Brown could have done serious or fatal damage to the officer despite being unarmed. While Mr. Brown advanced, the officer fired several shots. Brown was hit 3 times in the right arm, on the inside of the arm between the wrist and elbow, above the elbow, and in the armpit. The next shot was in his chest, just above his breast, one at the base of his neck on the right side, and one in his jaw. The next shot was into the credit card of his right eye, and that ended the threat. This shot undoubtedly ruptured the apricot, severing his brain from the brainstem. The last shot was into the top of the head. With the body being turned off by the hit to the credit card, Mr. Brown started falling forward uncontrolled, and the officer had not stopped recognizing Mr. Brown as a threat. These 8 shots happened in the span of about 2 or 3 seconds. A bill drill, a shooting standard that has you draw and place 6 rounds into an A zone of a target at 7 yards. A competent shooter can do that in about 4 seconds. This pattern of hits, starting at the lower arm and working up to the head, suggests to me that the officer was shooting while on the escalator, bringing his weapon up to his eye level for an aimed shot. Remember, you don't always get to take a full set stance in a real-life defensive situation. If the officer meant to hit the proper thoracic torso region, he missed to the left about 9 to 12 inches for the arm and armpit hits. So now we're going to have a test. I have made this training aid, which is 2 pieces of plexiglass painted to look like the front and rear sights of a firearm. I use these to train new shooters on how to aim. So I'm going to use a fancy word here, which is surmise. If you don't know what that means, it is an intransitive verb meaning to make a judgment about something without sufficient evidence. It's a word that most people mean when they say assume. And we all know how to spell assume, don't we? When I teach people how to shoot, I tell them to make a line from their eye to where they want the hole to appear in their target. Then bring the weapon up to that line with both of their sights. We are going to surmise that the rear sight is on that line. However, thanks to the disorientation of the officer, he didn't bring the weapon up straight and was probably fishing around for his front sight. We will surmise that the officer intended to aim at Mr. Brown's center of mass, as we are all trained to do. That being said, he missed by about 9 to 12 inches for the arm and armpit hits. How far off do you think the front sight was off to miss about 10 inches at 7 yards? I'll even give you a multiple choice. What I do need you to do is shout your answer at the screen so I can hear you. So, normal sight. Question A is this much. Answer B is this much. Answer C is this much. Again, A, B, C. Everyone answer? The answer is B. I tested this on my dry fire range with my SIRT pistol empirically. At a scale distance of 7 yards, I took aim at one of my USPSA scale targets, center of mass, pulled and pinned the trigger back for a steady red dot, then moved just the muzzle to the left until it was just off the target to about where the arm would be, then looked at my sights. I had a zero gap, but no overlap between the left side of the rear sight and the front sight. So, how would one overcome this kind of problem? Train your body for that natural point of aim, to where you can bring your weapon to bear accurately at a given spot, eyes open or closed. Your body doesn't really care about one eye not working, you're in pain, and your ears are ringing. You told your body threat, and your body should align and present accurately to that threat. So try this out. This is a variation of the Zatoichi drill. Do this only with a buddy who is right there behind you. Start out at low ready or compressed ready, your choice. Close your eyes. And on a signal from your buddy, aim at what you think is the center of the target, keeping your eyes closed. Your buddy is there to make sure you don't aim off the target and hit the wall's equipment or the next lane's target. Once the buddy sees, looking over your shoulder, that you'll at least hit paper, he'll say go or something and you'll take the shot. Let your weapon return to your natural point of aim and then open your eyes to see how well you did. In conclusion, practice to develop a proper and accurate point of aim. I suggest the Zatoichi drill and practice point shooting from the hip. Safety, please. Don't be the next Tex Grubner.
I just shot myself.
Stay safe, stay bullet free, theirs or yours. Tell your family you love them every chance you get. Y'all have yourselves a wonderful day. If you made it this far, thank you. If you liked this content, please hit the like button to show your support. Help me get the word out by subscribing to my channel, and don't forget to turn notifications on so you know when I post new content. If you think this content would help your friends, the share button helps you get it out to your social media. Comments mean a lot to me, good or bad. Please leave one. All right, go forth and have a most excellent day.